hibernate this winter. Get out and play at Mountain Creek and Crystal Springs Resort in nearby Vernon, New Jersey. Your favorite winter resort is now even better with new hotels, pampering amenities, and attractions for every taste. So whatever your definition of winter fun is, we are waiting for you. Mountain Creek and Crystal Springs Resort, New Jersey's winter playground. Book your close-to-home winter escape today.
Welcome to this evening's episode of Vernon Vibes. I want to take a moment to thank our advertisers, Crystal Springs, D&H Associates, and United Water Company for allowing us this evening to present in its entirety the State of the Town message that I delivered to the Town Council and the community on January 31st. I hope you enjoy it. I think you'll find it informative. I'm certainly looking forward to your feedback. Thank you. As you well know, in the end of 2011, we were able to negotiate with all three of our labor unions 4-year contracts for the very first time in the history of this community. In doing so, we were able to, in fact, negotiate fair contracts, and we've now had a year to take a look at what the effect of those contracts are. In terms of our police department, many changes, but I think the most significant one was the agreement of our patrolmen to a 12-hour shift. And while we've talked about it in the past, that 12-hour shift has resulted in some significant benefits to Vernon Township and our people. One, without having to hire additional police officers, we now have a minimum of 5, and in most cases 6 patrolmen on duty on all shifts, as compared to 3 and on a sparing basis prior on the 8-hour shift, 4 patrolmen. As a result, I'm sure many of our residents are seeing patrol cars in areas of the township that they may not have seen them before. In addition to the fact that we have more patrolmen on patrol and that we are in fact responding to the community, I think, in a fuller manner, we were able to save almost $50,000 in overtime pay. The analysis that we did prior to the contract showed that the lion's share of overtime occurred at shift change, as one would expect. And so a simple move from 3 shifts to 2 shifts actually resulted in a significant savings. And as a result, we were able to do other things in terms of adding to our police cruisers in 2012 video cameras. All of them now are equipped for the protection of our residents as well as our police officers. Questions as to what took place at the scene of an accident or what took place when a person has been pulled over no longer are the subject of hearsay, but now become a documented record of what actually took place at the time of an interaction between our patrol and the people. We also, at the present time, are making preparations in the 2013 budget for a better law package and dispatching system that will enable us to have available in our patrol cars what's known as e-ticket. At the present time, if a patrol officer pulls a car over and decides that there are 2 or 3 tickets that need to be issued based upon the findings, it takes anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes to do that. What we're proposing and what will become part of our equipment in 2013 is the ability for our police officers, in fact, to be able to, as they put the information into their onboard computers, which all of our cruisers now have, they will be able to identify what tickets are to be issued, and in less than 5 seconds they will be issued. More importantly, once that happens, those tickets will be automatically transmitted to the computer in the court administrator's office. So, gentlemen, the days of fudging or playing with tickets is now gone and will be soon. I want to address the issue of raises as they happened in 2012. Certainly the most talked about issue, the most written about issue, and certainly one of the bigger disappointments that I had during 2012, not so much that we lost the issue and that the people voted it down, but they so resoundingly voted it down that it would make someone question. There's been lots of pundits as to the why or wherefore, but I think it's important for you people to know that our department heads and this mayor have not changed anything about the way we've approached our jobs. They have the people who head up your departments, the people who work on behalf of seeing to it that the job gets done, continue to do an outstanding job. And I think when we get to discussing the budget a little later on in this month, you will see the savings that have been afforded to the people in Vernon once again through their efforts and the efforts of the people who work in Vernon Township. While Hurricane Irene occurred in 2011, we are still dealing with it. As you well know, we authorized a bond anticipation note in the amount of $1 million for the repair of our infrastructure, and our DPW and subcontractors have done a superb job. We are now in what I anticipated would happen, a tug of war with FEMA and OEM about reimbursement. We have received reimbursement, about 50% of what we have laid out so far. However, there are still many issues that need to be resolved between us, and not because Vernon didn't do its job, but more because of the kinds of decision-making that has been done at the federal and the state level. We will deal with it. The major issue has to do with our homeowners associations, who were absolutely crushed. And when we contacted FEMA and asked them whether or not they would qualify for reimbursement, since they were indeed Kelly Bill communities and had damages to their road, we were told unequivocally yes. And so the lake communities did all of the due diligence and all of the paperwork and submitted it, and the FEMA agents came out, went through all of their books, went through all of their information, and recommended that the communities be reimbursed. Fact of the matter is, at the very last minute, a higher level individual in FEMA came out one afternoon and said, no, we're denying this. So we are in the process of appeal. And I'm sure as we go forward, you will hear more about it. I would just simply tell you that there is a spirit of cooperation between the homeowners associations, the lake community, and this office, and we are working together through the auspices of both Senator Menendez and Senator Lautenberg's office. Their staff has been absolutely wonderful in their help. I wish I could say the same for our congressman, but I cannot. The result of Hurricane Irene, though, did lead to some very important upgrades in Vernon Township, and one that I want to report to you, of course, is the area of Baldwin and Mott Drive. That drainage project is complete, and interestingly enough, we have one of our residents who was affected by that, and then this evening I asked him, well, how did the project work? As you well know, we had well in excess of 2 inches of rain last evening, and prior to the drainage project, 2 inches of rain probably would have flooded out the neighborhood again. And John, not to embarrass you, but how's it working?
It's working fine. I used to have a humidifier in my cellar. I emptied it 5-6 times a day. Anybody needs a humidifier, they can have it. All the water's staying in that pipe.
Thank you, John.
Nothing's coming to the house.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. The second major drainage project that was a result of Irene was in the northern end of Vernon Valley Lake. That project is almost 80% complete. All of the new drain pipes are in place. We're at the point in time where weather stopped the project for the winter, but what's left to be done really is the reestablishment and the re-landscaping and the like due in the project. I also had an opportunity today before the meeting to speak with several of the residents in the area, including Mrs. Lori Lenhart, who was flooded out every time we had an inch or two of rain in Vernon Valley Lake, and her home was also dry. So we have made great progress in that area, and I'm happy to tell you that the work that has been done was brought in not only at a reasonable price, but in fact under budget in the case of both of those projects. You all know that we've completed the paving on Canister Road, and the intersection of Route 517 and Maple Grange is complete. And if there's anything that I have received compliments on more than the intersection of Route 517 and Maple Grange, I can't imagine what it would be. I can simply tell you, I travel through that area at least twice a day on my way to work and back, and the people who do appreciate the job that is done. I do believe it turned into be a beautiful project, but more importantly, a much safer project. Also in 2012, several things happened right here in the Municipal Center. The HVAC system was completely repaired. Our heating system, which didn't work, is virtually brand new. Our air conditioning system, which made this building an oven for so many summers, is now completely functional and repaired. You will notice that there are new walks in the front and the back. And I had some people ask me why I was spending that kind of money. I think it's important for you to know that it was done because of safety reasons more than cosmetic reasons. Because of the settling of the walks as they existed both in the front, we had several incidences of people tripping, getting hurt. It was a decision that was made for the safety of the public as well as the reducing the liability of the township for people who are visiting Town Hall. The look of it, I think, is improved, but more importantly, we have taken steps to reduce our exposure. You'll also notice that the entire grounds have been landscaped, and the bushes and the trees have been trimmed, and the flowers have been planted, and I think the start of a beautification committee is at Town Hall. And to respond to Mrs. Visciconti, if it's the wish of this council, I certainly will be more than happy to do the research and present you with some ordinances to consider in the future. However, I too believe that beautification is important. It's our home. And I want to compliment the people who work at our DPW who in fact take care of this building. And I think most people who come here would have to admit that it's a much more attractive place to work and to visit. You'll also notice that there's new fencing around the recycling department. The section of fence that laid several years, crushed and broken, has been replaced and repaired. I just had to do that because the people who run our recycling program now not only are generating tremendous revenue to the township, but they keep that place spotless. And they are to be commended for it. And the state of New Jersey agreed with us as our recycling program in 2012 was recognized by the New Jersey DEP as the premier community recycling program in the entire state. Something for us to be very proud of. That decision made by a previous administration not to contract and spend $80,000 to $90,000 a year to have the recycling hauled away is now generating well in excess of $90,000 to $100,000 in revenue to Vernon Township every year. It's a compliment to the decision that was made and to the way that job is being done by our employees. I alluded to the lake communities a little earlier. We have now had a year of the new agreement between Vernon Township and the lake communities. And I can tell you that our DPW and the leadership of all of the communities have worked extremely well to keep the cost to Vernon Township down. When we took office in July of 2011, this township was at least 2 years in arrears, and in some cases, such as the Stonehill condominiums, 4 years in arrear of their payments to those communities for the expenses that had been run up by the lake communities and the homeowners association, which under the law, we were required to reimburse. Previous administrations just made a decision not to do it. As we took office, we were faced with the potential for a very, very nasty lawsuit. And every one of you know that the lake communities were prepared to do that. When we sat down with the heads of the lake communities and we discussed and hashed out what the problem was and how we might go about solving it, we came to the proposal that you are all very aware of. We now provide salt and grits to the various communities. Fact of the matter is, when they bought it for themselves, they were paying $72 a ton. We buy it for $52 a ton. Do your math. Huge savings. Secondly, we made a promise. I made it, and you gentlemen agreed with me when I brought it to you as a resolution, that we would make the effort to bring Vernon Township current. I am proud to tell you that as I stand before you this evening, every lake community has been paid in full through 2010. The 2011 money will be, as a matter of fact, as I stand here, is 3/4 paid. By the time the first quarter of this year is over, 2011 will be paid. And thank goodness we had a soft year in 2012 in weather, By the end of this year, Vernon Township will be absolutely current on all those bills. Gentlemen, that money comes to almost $2 million. And I'm proud to tell you that it only happened because people worked together. One of the things that Vernon Township is known for throughout northern New Jersey, and particularly through Sussex County, is the facilities that we make available for recreation purposes in this township. There is no public facility, park, anywhere in Sussex County that can compare with Maple Grange. And we are very, very fortunate to have that for the benefit of our citizens. Some of the things that we have done at Maple Grange include an increase and upgrading of the maintenance, including the raking of the fields and the replacement of the rubberized things that, I mean, I'm not an expert on it, but I know that every so often you have to replace the rubber pellets with a shared service between ourselves and the Board of Education, where they use our machine to put the pellets in and we use their rake. Anyone who uses those facilities would tell you that they are in good standing, good stead, and if we continue with our plan of maintenance, we can expect that those fields will last us much longer than anyone predicted. In addition, during 2012, at the behest of and the actual efforts of our Department of Recreation Chairman, Melissa Wiedbrock, we now have, along the walking trail at Maple Grange, a 15-station exercise station. And I am told that many, many of our citizens are using it. I know that they're using the walking path because I can tell you that right after the very first snowstorm, we didn't get to the walking path quick enough. The DPW didn't, for whatever reasons, we had a couple of truck breakdowns and whatever. But I had several phone calls from people who use that walking path every day and said, Mayor, could you be sure that that gets cleaned off too? Which we are doing, and it's working, and people are happy to be able to use that facility, even in the inclement weather. As to the flats, there are several improvements that we will look for in 2013. First, the basketball court on the flats will be completely repaired. I have to say thank you to the Highland Lakes Community Association because, frankly, it's the only basketball court in all of Vernon Township that youngsters can use, and they were kind enough not to throw their the non-member youngsters off of the court. They allowed them to play. But in fair balance, traveling from the valley or the west side of town to play basketball in Highland Lakes is somewhat of a problem. We have a court that's been there for a long time. It has settled, it's rippled. We are going to replace it completely. We will see to it that we have a very, very nice, up to grade, up to standard basketball court on that facility before the warm weather is over. In addition, the playground. The playground is in need of our attention, gentlemen. It was a very, very good community project. A lot of volunteer work went into it, but it's getting old. And there are issues of exposed nuts and bolts, and there are issues that we have to address simply from a safety point of view. When we get to the capital budget, we'll be talking more about it. But the community and you can look for an improvement in that playground in 2013. We've had some questions here this evening about the MUA. And I would simply say that yes, there's been some confusion. And yes, there's been some starts, fits and stops. But one of the things that I am proudest of, despite what people may think, is that 7 volunteers, Vernon citizens, your neighbors, have given of their time and their effort and have listened to the community and have attempted to correct any errors or mistakes that have been made, and they continue to do so. When you undertake a new undertaking such as this MUA, which as you all very well know, was in place when we took office, when you undertake this kind of a project, there are always going to be some fits and starts and some problems and some mistakes. I'd rather focus on the fact that we have a functioning MUA who listens to the people and is trying within the confines of the financial structure that was presented to them when they were appointed to, in fact, give to this community a good working sewer system. I think it's important for you gentlemen to know that of all the sewer systems in Sussex County, even with the EDU rate of $840 a year, we are the second lowest EDU rate in the county. The only township or municipality lower is Newton, and their sewer system was built some 40 years ago, and the bond is long since paid off. Every one of the other communities who either use the Musconetcong Sewer Authority, which is Hopatcon and Stanhope in the southern end of the county, or that use the Hamburg SCMUA facility, have higher rates. No matter how you calculate it, whether it's metered or whether it's EDU, the cost per gallon to treat the sewerage is higher in every one of those communities. Further, when the MUA first met, the original numbers said that EDU should be $1,000 a year, not $840. You gentlemen may recall that there was much said about my request that you authorize an appropriation additionally to the amount of money to buy the sewer system of $2.8 million. And we had all kinds of people with all kinds of, what are you doing and whatever. I'll tell you exactly what we were doing. We knew that it was going to take time to build out this system, and we knew that there may very well be modifications that were going to have to be made. That appropriation that you authorized made it possible for the MUA to adjust the rates so that they more closely reflected what they should have been for a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom apartment. Further, I think it's also important for you gentlemen to know that this is a situation that is ongoing, and we have some issues in the town center itself and the cost of businesses hooking to the system. We are presently, when I say we, I'm talking about the MUA, looking at and talking with a committee of businessmen looking for ways to alleviate that burden, not to make it go away, but to make it more workable. You'll be hearing more about that in the future too. I'm pleased to report that the details of the developer's agreement for the proposed senior housing complex is in the hands of the attorneys, and I believe that we will be hearing the application for that building in the not too distant future before the Land Use Board. There are hurdles that have to be overcome. They include COA, they include water supply, but nonetheless, the developers are moving ahead, and I do believe that the day when our seniors will have a place to live that they can afford and feel safe and be in the town center is not too very far in the distant future. I want to tell you about the video arrangement that we have made with Sussex County Jail. I mentioned saving about $50,000 in overtime on the shift change for police. Another area that we saved money on overtime actually had to do with what I'm about to tell you about. A $13,000 investment allowed this community to be the very first in northern New Jersey to use video arraignment, thereby alleviating the need for 2 police officers on overtime to go to Newton, pick up prisoners, bring them here for arraignment, stay in court while they were here to guard them, and return them to the jail. Now, what happens is that prisoner gets brought to a camera room in the jail. We have one here. There's a large screen that's available to everyone, and the arraignments go smoothly. We have not had to transport one prisoner from the Sussex County Jail since the advent of this system. That $13,000 investment not only has saved us money, it has had our court, our municipal court, identified by the office of the Administrative Office of the Courts of New Jersey as a premier example of ways to save money in the future in the administration of justice in the municipal courts. We are exploring ways to, in fact, enhance and use that video system in ways that may very well address people, for example, who are have warrants out, who are flight from the community, maybe even out into the across the country because of the national computerized networks. People who have a warrant out in New Jersey for them, when they go to get their license renewed in New Mexico, guess what happens? Can't do it until you take care of the warrant in New Jersey. Now, a lot of people will just break the law, but some of them offered the opportunity to have a hearing via video and to pay the fine via video to get their licenses back. May be something we'll see more of in the future. It's a tribute to our people in the in the in the court administration office, as well as our judge, Judge Devine, and our prosecutor, Mike Hanifin. I want to report to you that today, late this afternoon, we received a decision from the Civil Service concerning the issue of the layoff of the 2 part-time fire inspectors in Vernon. At the present time, we are looking at what we're being required to do, but I want to report to this council that we will comply, and we will do whatever is required of us by the law. The situation will be dealt with based upon the decision that was made. We are being required to, in fact, to put in place what's called by the Civil Service a layoff plan. Again, as we move forward with it, we'll keep you apprised of what the situation is. The last thing that I would like to address this evening for you, on Tuesday morning, I asked the clerk to place in your mailboxes what I would have handed to you last Monday night. And it is a draft document, and it is a presentation of the operating budget that we are proposing for 2013. There's also some additional information. I would respectfully request that before we leave this meeting room tonight, that we agree, or that you would agree with me, that a work session to be held very soon for an open discussion of what is in that budget and what your wishes are concerning it be held. And I will simply say this by way of summary. The tax rate is going down again for the second year in a row. Probably about the same, a penny or two. It's nothing dramatic, I understand that, but in these times, when you think about the fact that our salaries increased 2%, when you think about the fact that other things are going up, for us to be able to do that, our department heads had to get very, very tight on their appropriations requests. The actual appropriations are going down significantly, not dramatically, maybe $50,000 to $80,000, but nonetheless, less appropriations being asked for than last year. Our cash surplus fund is going up. We'll get more into the numbers when we have our work session, but I'm here to tell you that we will have increased our cash surplus fund by approximately about $250,000. And we also will be asking, or I should say, sharing with you an idea that I think whose time has come. In your package, if you look at the bonds that Vernon Township is committed to, you will see that all of the permanent bonds that exist have unbelievable increases in the yearly payment in the out years. An example of what I'm talking about, there's a bond for $12,800,000 that was in fact a gathering up of bands and was put into place in the spring of 2011. It's the one that no payment was made on, so we had to make 2 payments in 2012. That bond this year will have a premium of about $700,000, thereabouts, 600 to 700. Don't hold my feet to the fire, but it's around that number. In the out years, that bond will be costing us $1.1 to $1.4 million per year. If we don't begin to make preparations for that, someone sitting where you are and where I am down the road, definitely long after I'm gone, I won't speak for you, is going to have a really tough problem that they're facing. And so I am proposing, and you will see in the budget, what I am referring to as a sinking fund. That money actually is part of our surplus, but it will be earmarked for 2 purposes. One, if my guess is right and the pundits' guess is right, that at some point as the economy perks up, we're going to see some inflation and the interest rates are going to take off. Those very nice interest rates that we're now paying for bonds, bond anticipation notes of 1.25%, 1.5%, they could double, triple, they could even go even higher. If we don't have a reserve set aside, the impact of that kind of increase could be devastating on the operation of this community. And so I am going to be proposing that we make a payment into, it'll be a line item in the budget called Reserve for Increased Interest and or Bond Payments. And I would hope that you would support the idea of annually making it part of our budget so that we can have a significant amount of money set aside so that we don't have to manage by crises, but rather by a planned financial approach. It's what you asked of me when I came here. I believe it's what the people in Vernon asked of me when they elected me. And we together, Mr. Jimes, Mr. Zuckerman, and all of the department heads in this building have understood what was being asked of us. We're making decisions. That's what I was elected to do. Hopefully they're the ones that you like. It's my pleasure to serve you, and I thank you for your time.
Vernon Vibes is brought to you in part by United Water, the official water company of Vernon Township. United Water, involved in the communities they serve.